When episode 9 opens, we see the castle is quiet, right? There's stillness, and it looks like we're in Viserys' chambers. And it's quiet there. A young boy goes running through the castle, and it's like silent for the first few minutes of the episode. But this young boy goes running through the castle down to, it looks like the kitchen, where he finds one of the servant women. Not sure exactly what her role is or what his relationship is to her, but the point is that the kid goes running to this woman, and we see him whispering to her. You see the information making its way from the little boy to this woman, who then goes to alert Alicent. And the message that they're passing along is that the king is dead. Now, on its own, that's a tremendous thing, because the king rules over the 7 kingdoms. You know, his position holds a lot of power and authority. This will have great ramifications for everyone. But it's made even more important news because of the different plots and schemes that are at play. Alicent starts it off by going to her father, letting him know that the king is dead, and also dropping in the little tidbit that she saw Viserys sometime before, like earlier in the night, and he expressed to her his desire to have Aegon become his heir, right? That he changed his mind about Rhaenyra and has now decided that he wants Aegon to be his heir. From there, Alicent and Hightower then go on to call the council together, where they're now going to share this information with the rest of the council that the king is dead. Alicent repeats this story again about Viserys changing his mind on his deathbed about what would end up being his deathbed, about who would be his heir. And Alicent is actually, well, first off, Alicent is plotting and scheming here, because I think from the looks and kind of uncertainty that you see in her having this conversation with the other members of the council, Viserys said no such anything to her. When he was speaking, like, I was a little bit undecided at the end of episode 8 if she misunderstood what he was saying, and in her, like, innocently enough, thought that he was talking to or about her and her son. But from her demeanor, and it's actually really good acting here, you know, this kind of like, let's see if they buy this kind of thing, it would seem that she's lying, right? That Viserys, she heard what Viserys was saying, but picks up correctly that he was actually speaking about Rhaenyra, not about her son. And so she starts this lie as a means of skirting around the reality that even at what would end up being the end of his life, Viserys was steadfast in his decision that Rhaenyra should be his heir. And it's like, as she's sitting there telling this lie, looking around to see if everybody else is believing it, the other members of the council, well, some of the other members of the council start looking around, and they're like, okay, well, great. You know, this means that we don't have to set our plan in motion. What plan is this? That apparently they had already decided that regardless of whatever Viserys' wishes were, that they were going to install Aegon as his heir. That whenever Viserys passed away, that they were going to make Aegon king. And with that, and this goes back to the earlier episode where Alicent was plotting with Larys Strong. And he took things a bit further in just going ahead and killing his brother and father. You know, where, again, it's this thing of her playing checkers and not realizing that everyone else is playing chess. She certainly didn't kill Viserys, right? She's not that cutthroat, but she's conniving and dishonest in that, or rather, she's willing to do shady and underhanded things to get her way. And we see this with her telling them that Viserys changed his mind about who should be his heir, only to then be surprised that, wait a minute, like, they're like taking it way further than that. And not only are they plotting to make Aegon, Viserys' heir, but to do so, they're going to take it so far as to try to kill Rhaenyra and Daemon. Now that she didn't sign up for. And so you can see that it gives her pause, where it's like, it's this thing where she's like in these cabals of scheming people, and she's willing to like bend the rules and to do unethical things, but to a point. But yet, this is the second time now that she's finding herself in a situation where there's plotting and scheming going on, and she's with it until she realizes that the people around her are willing to go way further than she is. And so with that, we see like she becomes uncomfortable with the conversation. And it shows you like, going back to like the earlier episodes with Viserys and even with Rhaenyra and these other people, where it's like, how do you trust anyone that's around you when they're all plotting and scheming, right? You think about Viserys with Hightower, where Hightower's supposed to be his hand, but here you have it where Hightower is a part of a plot to kill Viserys' daughter, to make way for his grandson to become king. And it's like, it goes back to like Viserys, the conversation that they had when he dismissed Hightower as hand of the king, where it's like he's operating in his own best interests and doing things that are contrary to what Viserys would want to have done. And it's like, if you would plot and scheme to kill Rhaenyra and to kill Daemon, who's to say that you would stop short of trying to kill Viserys if push came to shove? In real life, I wouldn't want to be a part of any of this kind of stuff. But it's like, it's one of the things, the plotting and scheming and the alliances and the backstabbing and whatnot, the political intrigue, albeit fictional, that I find really entertaining about both House of the Dragon, and I also found entertaining with Game of Thrones, where it's like, you always have people plotting and scheming, and especially in situations like this, it's like, who can you really trust? And it's actually quite admirable at the same time that you have one of the council members who stands up and is like, I'm not buying this nonsense. And of course, who would? That the king dies, okay, fine, he was sick and had a lot going on health-wise, but conveniently, on his deathbed, he decides, after all of this, pushing and tugging and whatnot, people trying to get him to change his mind for quite some time now, that on his deathbed, he decides to change his mind about who should be his heir. And that conveniently, the only person around to hear it is his wife, who is mother of the person that they're saying should now become king. Seems pretty convenient. That this new heir, his mother, a completely unbiased witness, hears Viserys change his mind, voice that he wants to change his mind about who should be his heir. Sounds a bit sketchy. And I appreciated the council member for speaking up and stating that. It's like, how ridiculous is that? Who would believe that? And then it's like, at the same time, here you have it with Sir Christian Cole, where, the man gets up and is like, realizes what's going on and pretty much wants to distance himself from this situation. Like the one ethical person in the room, or one of the only ethical people in the room. And in speaking out, you have Sir Christian Cole, another hypocrite, much like Alicent, where they're very self-righteous and judgmental. This whole thing about him being ethical and being, one of the king's guards, and this white cloak and the importance that it holds for him and whatnot. But then we see that he ends up, like manhandling the council member, and actually results in the man's head being smashed against, this little meeting apparatus thing that they have on the table. And it's like, the head of the king's guard steps forward to admonish Sir Christian Cole, and it's only because, Allison pretty much tells Cole to like back down that he backs off. But it's like, you look at it, you're here defending incredibly unethical behavior when just a few episodes back, you were losing your mind over, Rhaenyra and what she had going on. And it's like, it's insane. You then have it where, unfortunately, the like one righteous council member dies, and they're sitting around continuing on with this plot as to how to carry this scheme out. And it's like, from there, you then have it where, the head of the King's Guards, after they kind of settled the situation with Sir Christian Cole, like calm that down where the two of them were really going to fight, you now have it where Hightower's trying to send him out to go and do their dirty work. And he states, well, listen, this sounds kind of funky. Seconding the council members' perspective on things, like, this sounds funky. I don't know who the king is right now, and so I'm not carrying out any orders. I do not work for you, I work for the king. I serve the king, I don't serve the council. And never mind that you're stating that, Aegon is now the king. I don't know that. And until we get the situation settled and figured out, I'm not taking any orders from you. And it's like, from there, you see this thing where it's like, it's spreading out, where they have to give themselves enough time to figure out their full machinations and put a plot and scheme together, right? Because it's like, they've had an idea in place, yes, for what they wanted to do, but circumstances have kind of began beyond their control. And so as part of that, you have it where they now have to make some adjustments. And that means that they need to, for the time being at least, to contain this information, to prevent Daemon and Rhaenyra getting this information. Because up to this point, as part of Viserys naming Rhaenyra as heir, is that they had the lords and heads of the other houses swear loyalty to Rhaenyra. And so as part of that is they now need to kind of get word out to the proper and relevant people to get them over to their side so that they can carry out this scheme. And so as part of that is, we see that like the woman who received notice from the boy that she's locked up in the dungeons. The other rank and file folks from around the castle, we see them being, like they're running around and whatnot. And as they're doing that, we see Rhaenys is in her chambers, most likely still having stayed over from her visit from Triffmark, because remember again, this is just like the morning after. She wakes up and like the door to her chambers, it's locked. She looks out and she sees people running about, and it's like she's being kept in her room as well. So, number one, she doesn't know that the king is dead. And then also to prevent her from, notifying anyone else. And from there, we then see that very quickly, Hightower and company are able to gather the lords and heads and representatives from the various houses to try to coerce them, really, into bending the knee and swearing their loyalty to Aegon. And we see again that some people, like, without any question, they just go ahead and bend the knee, because it's pretty clear that there's some duress going on here, right? There's an unstated threat here that things might not work out for you very well if you don't bend the knee. And as part of this, we see them, that Aegon has like escaped the castle, has escaped the keep, and is out in King's Landing, has been from during the night, gallivanting and whatnot. And so now, not only is it important for them to reach out to potential allies or also potential threats, to bring them over to their side, to get them to swear loyalty to their cause, they also have to find Aegon. Because, anybody kills Aegon or anything like that, now you're in real problems. And so with that, we see Sir Christian Cole and Aemond out in King's Landing looking for Aegon. And it's like, you think about it, when you're doing right, things are more simple. They're less complicated. You're doing wrong when you have to do all of this wheeling and dealing and there's all these machinations and whatnot at play. That's how you know you're doing wrong. That all of this plotting and scheming and underhanded behavior and having to coerce people into taking your side and whatnot, that's how you know you're doing wrong. So at this point, I am most certainly not Team Green. I have not liked the Hightowers from the beginning. And I think as the season goes on, or as the season has gone on, I feel like I made the right decision. Right? Like, Hightower is just ruthless. Alicent is not quite as bad, but she's not good either.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.